Here, my name is Rob Zdrojewski, and I am a middle school technology teacher. This would be my 14th year teaching technology education at Amherst Middle School for 7th and 8th grade. And as of about 2.5 years ago, I started teaching at Canisius College also in the Education Technologies and Emerging Media program. It's a really long program name. Mr. Arnold is handing around to you guys some information about that if you're interested not only in yourself, but if you know somebody that needs to get a master's degree in something in the area of education technologies. Canisius is accredited to be able to award you certification in New York State. As far as I understand, Buff State and UB, which have had ed tech programs for many years, do not have the accreditation to give you that certification. So it's kind of a unique thing. Take a look at some of the paperwork coming out about that. And if you have questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those at the end. So what I do in my middle school classroom and my grad school online classroom is this. I present and I record at the same time. So everything I'm saying right now is being recorded. I'm using a screencasting program, a new one I'm using now called ScreenFlow. I used to use Camtasia and Snagit more heavily, but I'm trying out something new in the last couple of months by using ScreenFlow. So this is all going to be recorded and it will be up on YouTube on my site, just like, I could probably show you another one here, just like previous, I won't go too far back, but just like previous workshops that I've taught. So if I can put a little plug in here for my teacher blog, robztraining.com, right-hand side right here, if you subscribe by email, you'll get an update anytime I post a new video recording or a new something happening in my middle school classroom, whether it be robotics, Google Docs, Edmodo, screencasting projects, you name it. So if you're interested, you have an easy way for you to do it on the right-hand side there. And I probably send out something maybe once or twice a month, so it's not a constant barrage of emails. All right, so if you have a device with you, looks like many of you do, if you could go to robztraining.com and go to the very first entry, which is our digital wave event of today using Socrative and Cahoot, you will see this green document right here. And this links you to a Google Doc that I will be using as the outline today. So you don't have to take notes. I did that for you. You could just simply follow along with my Google Doc. And if you want to make your own notes on it, remember with Google Docs, how many are Google Docs users? I'd love to see that number go up. Every time I ask, there's more and more people. I am anti-Microsoft. I always say, friends don't let friends use Microsoft products. So if that helps explain where I stand on that. Anything Google, anything Apple, I'm very pleased to use. So in Google Docs, we can just go File, make a copy, and now you will have a duplicate copy of this cloud-based document and write all over it and put your notes on it if you like. So that being said, here it is as, let me go full screen here with it, the outline. My contact information up there is available if you need it at any time. Feel free to shoot me a tweet, an email, catch me on the blog at any time. So today's workshop, I've done this one in a bunch of different scenarios. Usually it's a 2 to 3 hour workshop, and of course we don't have that time today, so I'm going to go a little bit quicker than I normally do. I might cut some pieces out just in the interest of time. But I like to give now a balance between Socrative and Cahoot. I used to do this session. Has anybody seen this session before on Socrative that I've done? I've done it at this conference a couple times, at FETC in Florida, at ISTE a couple times. Now that Cahoot has come out, has anybody used Cahoot? A couple people have heard of it, seen it? I almost like it better than Socrative, but when I put in the proposal of what I want to present today, it was just Socrative only. So I've kind of modified it in the past couple of months to be a nice balance between the two different tools. They basically both do the same thing though. Use any mobile device or tablet, browser, cell phone, you name it, and even e-readers too. I've seen some kids use, and this becomes now a clicker device. Does anybody have clickers in their classroom that they use? Okay, those are very expensive. They do one thing. They do it well, but they do one thing, and there's a pretty steep learning curve to them. So if you get rid of all those bad things and say, I want something that's easy, I want something that's free, and something that does more than just this event, you've got your mobile device of choice, any brand, any style. And it's totally web-based, so you do not have to install any apps ahead of time. You just simply need to have a browser to do it. So I've given you most of my introduction here. I wanted to point out in my third piece here, a good Socrative overview. They have a YouTube channel. The company that creates Socrative, and this would be a great place to go if you've never heard of Socrative. If you're curious how it might work, they have a nice little overview video in about 1.5 minutes. They talk about the reports, which is how you look at the results after the fact, and then the things you can do as a teacher. We're going to do a space race today, so you'll see how that goes. How to do quick questions and more lengthy questions, how to change settings like your profile, and etc. So a real good place to go. I learned from there many years ago when I was just getting started with Socrative. So that link is there for you. So we already mentioned the compatible devices. In my room of 7th and 8th graders, I do have access to 20 iPad minis, and I prefer that they use those devices because in our district in Amherst, they only provide Wi-Fi as of now for district-owned devices, not for student-owned devices. So for my own interest here, how many of you work in a district where they provide Wi-Fi for any student device? All right, so I'd say that's about, and I'm saying this for the recording here because my administrators might be watching this after the fact. There's probably about 60% had said that there, that we have Wi-Fi for students. So that's a daily struggle I'm always trying to get is these kids have great devices, they bring them in, but it can't get on the Wi-Fi. They have to wait till they get home to do Wi-Fi stuff. So I try to lean them more towards using our 20 iPad minis. They could also use Chromebooks. I can borrow those carts that we have. Desktop computers would work as well. So really any device that has a browser is fair game for what we're doing today. The preferred browser on your devices would be Chrome, except if you're on iOS. We tend to find that sometimes Chrome doesn't work well when it comes to typing things in. It might be the way that it might be a bug that we found. So if you're on an iOS device, an Apple device, we recommend using the Safari native browser. But across all other platforms, try to go with Chrome, and you'll have the best luck for that. So we're going to take now an intro quiz that I've made. Notice there's this SOC number. It's kind of like a serial number. If you like the quiz that you are about to take and maybe you want to use it for yourself, you can just use that number in your Socrative teacher account, plug it in, and now you instantly have my test. But it's a copy of my test. So if you make changes to it, it doesn't change my copy. So this is really great when you have teachers working across grade levels or buildings, and they, one teacher makes it and all the other teachers want to benefit from it. You just share out your Socrative numbers with them, and it's a way to reduce the amount of typing of questions into a quiz. So it's a nice sharing capability. There's even, if you go on, if you Google it, Socrative quiz numbers, you'll get lists from math teachers and Latin teachers and anything you can think of. People share these widely across the web, usually on teacher blogs and things. So I have to go to Socrative.com. And keep in mind, of course, I have an account. If you do not have an account yet, you would go under the part where it says get your free account. It takes less than 30 seconds to create. They just ask for your email address, and I always recommend use your school email address in case they need to verify that it's a true teacher at a school. So you sign up with that. Once you have it, I'll go to the teacher login. And I was already logged in from previously. And you know what? I think I'm wider here than I need to be. So let me make sure I'm not off the screen here. And what I'm going to end up doing later is having possibly 2 browser windows open so you can see what it looks like for those of you that don't have. How many people do not have a device? Okay, just a small, only 1 or 2. Okay, so everybody has a device. So I'm going to show you up on the big screen here what you would see on the teacher view. You, of course, will see the student view on your devices. So to get into Socrative, you're going to go to, on your browser, Socrative.com. So go ahead and do that. And when you are there, you will be asked if you are a teacher or a student. So, of course, you're going to put in student. I'm going to, even though we have teachers in the audience today, I'm going to consider you guys all to be the students in the class. So you'll log in there, and then it's going to ask you for a room name. And the room name is ROBZ, R-O-B-Z. And the way that this tool works is they do allow you to customize your room name. At one point they didn't. We're looking at Socrative 2.0. I think they did add it finally back in. So when you are in the room, I know it based on the number up here in the upper corner. See how that number is now increasing as people are getting into it. So I verbally give instructions. I don't even have to write anything on the board for my 7th and 8th graders when it's the first time they're doing this. I say go to Socrative.com, and I don't really have to tell them, make sure you say student, not teacher, because that's kind of obvious. But then I say my room number is Rob Z. In some cases at school, I use my schoolroom number, which is 110. So they'll put in 110 as the number. So you can change that number if need be. So I see 9 people there, and I'm thinking there's about 25 or so in the room, 30 people or so in the room. So I'll give you a couple more moments to get into that.
Where do we add the room?
When you go to the website of Socrative.com.
I'm logged in.
Okay.
Mine has a room in it already, maybe from another.
It could be if you are to exit the room.
It says log out, doesn't it, at the top?
Yeah, I think in the top, is it to the top right or left?
Mine says right, top right.
Top right, to see if there's a log out. That could be if you're coming into the room and there was a kid in first period that was just in, and now you're in second period and using the same device. That may happen. So what she's explaining is not uncommon if you're sharing devices among multiple students. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward with it. If you could help your neighbors out next to you, if anybody needs help to get in. If you were in, just help. That's what I tell the kids. If you're in, help somebody else that's not in yet. And you can join in along as we go too. So if you get in on the second or third question, not a big deal. It'll allow you in as we progress. All right, so I'm going to start a quiz that I have already put in ahead of time. And I have to decide now from a couple of options how I want to run this. And in fact, let me remind myself how I wanted to do this. I'm going to do it teacher-paced. All right, so you're either doing it student-paced or teacher-paced. Teacher-paced means I'm going to throw the questions out to you, and I'm in control one by one, most likely so we can have a conversation around each question. Whereas the opposite of that would be student-paced. I would basically hit a button, it would go, and you would all work at your own pace. And I would watch to see your progress. I would stay quiet up here. And when you're all done, then we would look at the results. So we'll do both methods today so you can see the difference between them. So for today, I'm going to start this one with a teacher-paced. And they give you a little description of what that means here. The additional settings, let's see. Disabled student. I want to see the student names. I'm not going to randomize this time. And I'm going to, let's see, disable student feedback. No, I'm going to have that off because I want you guys to get feedback after each question. And I will hit start. And on your screens, correct me if I'm wrong here, you should be seeing question number, or actually for your name. It'll do your name, yes. Before you see question 1, it'll ask you for your name. So go ahead and put in your first name, and you could do last initial if you like. And once your name is in, then you will be presented with question number 1. And I'm kind of watching the bottom left-hand corner here because it tells me how many have answered so far. And once I see that we're just about good with everybody in, looks like 10 out of 11, so we're just about all in. And I got to back up maybe here. In the bottom right-hand corner for me, it says, how did we do? This is the big reveal. I click on that, and now I can see the results presented in a nice bar graph. And it's important that we don't show those results when people are still voting, because that could influence someone to say, you know what, looks like most people are picking A, I'll pick A as well. So you kind of had it hidden until the moment you want to reveal the answer, so everybody has a fair shot at answering.
Is that the last choice that you turned off, where it said do not give immediate feedback? Is that the one that you show or not show?
Believe so, yes. Did you see on your screen?
I'm not doing it. My battery's on.
Oh, okay. Okay. That was disable student results, so that I got to think if it's up here, up there. I think it's for you guys. You would see on your device if you got it right or wrong on your device the moment you answered it.
Okay. So how do you stop that from showing right away?
This I just would not click that button.
Oh, gotcha.
It stays in that state until the moment I decide to do the reveal. So I watch down in that corner to see how many people have answered.
Probably kind of hung up in this loop, waiting for the
It didn't
teacher.
give him the feature to put
It didn't go?
No.
And you're on?
Logging out and then log back into the
Yes.
Yeah, I was going in.
Good thing to bring up now, guys, because we're all on different, probably cell phone carriers. Some of us in the room might be on AT&T, some might be on Verizon, some might be on Erie on BOCES Wi-Fi. That may be the case in a situation like this. If things do not work, I usually tell the student to log out and log back into the app. If it still doesn't work, then plan B is to force close the app. People know about that, where you double tap and then you swipe it out if you're on an Apple device. So you're like killing off the app, the browser altogether. So that's plan B. And then plan C, if all that doesn't work, totally power down and power back up the device, kind of like rebooting a computer. So the students in my classroom know that's kind of like option A, B, and C, is that you go from the easiest to the most difficult if things aren't working. So is everyone else okay in terms of connectivity? We're all good? Okay, good. Everybody's good. So we have, and notice that as we went, more people got in. We now have 17 in the room. So it just adapts dynamically as you're going. So it's no problem if someone walks in the room and says, hey, I want to join in, they can join in. So that's a great way to do it. So I'm going to move on now to the next question. And you shall see the next multiple choice question popping up. So choose which category that you would fall in. Is it 1:15 that we go to this session?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, so we're just about all in. Very good. I will reveal, and I don't usually wait until it says like 17 out of 17, because sometimes there is that one student that's just kind of hanging out and waiting to see the reveal. I don't use this ever for grades in the grade book. That's an important thing to mention. But however, the other one I'll show you, Kahoot today, I have been using that for putting an official grade in the grade book. So how they do there does count for a score. So Socrative is kind of more of a formative assessment, non-graded. And Kahoot, I use it for more of a formal assessment, kind of summative assessment. So how do we do? Here's our results. And I don't know if I put in right or wrong answers. This one doesn't have, obviously, a right or wrong answer, but it might be red because I may have checked a box somewhere when I made this here. I think I remember making that mistake before. So if you do check a box and say one of these is correct, it may have said, yeah, honestly, I don't know why it's like that. Because I don't think I would have done that. But anyways, you'll see that when I build a quiz here with you, how you can choose to make there be right answers or just be open-ended. So we have mostly teachers in the room here. And we can now go to our next question. I made this one because I wanted you to see how you could put in images. So you should see that small little thumbnail image on whatever screen size you're working on because it adapts itself dynamically. So if you recognize that picture, you can go from my multiple choices and see if you can figure this one out.
Space Rome.
Yes. Oh, the reason why that's in there is because when I do this in Orlando every year, this presentation, the picture is the Epcot Center ball. And so I make it very Disney themed. All right, we can reveal and see how do we do. And we have unanimous. Everybody in the room has it one correct. Very good. Albright Knox. The next question is, this one is interesting. You really have to know either how to spell the state or the state's abbreviation. So it's not multiple choice. So you're less likely going to get this right by guessing. You really got to know your stuff based on either the content or if you identify that state by its shape.
Are you asking for the state or the city? You're asking for the state?
I believe, yes, the state. It's got to be the state. And I like this style question because with multiple choice, with 4 choices, you got a 25% chance of getting it right and not really knowing your stuff. So this, you kind of really have to know your stuff because you have to spell it right or abbreviate it just right. All right, looks like more than half are in. Now notice too up here, it shows me ... dots. That means people have entered stuff. If I say show names, let's see if this works here. So there's the name, so I can tell who has answered so far. And then if I want to see what did these people answer, I check that to show answers. And now I can see how everybody responded directly that way. So in a classroom situation, you may or may not want to reveal that information to the audience. You might think it's kind of sensitive that people are going to mock out. Let's see, who can we mock out here? We might mock out Sue B and say Tennessee. No, Sue, that's not Tennessee. Or kids might do that to each other. So if you want to, you have the ability to either show or hide names or show and hide answers. So depending on what your goal is, you have the options there to reveal what you want to reveal. And what was neat about this is you could put in the word Pennsylvania or PA, because I made this one, either answer would be correct. And capital and lowercase does not matter. The case does not matter. You did put lowercase? Lowercase PA with no spaces and no...
But lowercase Pennsylvania spelled was incorrect.
See, I thought case didn't matter. I'll have to double check that.
Spelling matter.
Spelling will matter, yes. But I thought the case didn't matter. I'll have to double check that. All right, and our next one is, of course, another image. And this is our semi-sarcastic one we build in here.
I don't know if you're funnier.
Is it based on Jim?
Yeah, who's
So we need clarification on this.
I'm gonna say, of course he did.
Let's say this is like state testing and I'm not allowed to give you any hints. And you have to struggle on your own out there and see what you come up with.
Al Gore never struggles.
All right, and there we go. False majority got that one correct. Very good. It is Tim Berners-Lee. Is it 1989? I put it in there, right? Did you get feedback that said that? Yeah, so I enabled that so that you did get feedback. The danger in that is if you got the feedback and the person next to you did not yet answer, they may look and say, oh, I see the answer, and then they put it in on theirs. That's why in the beginning, if you remember, there was a slider switch that I had to decide, do I want them to see the feedback or not see the feedback?
How come it says 20 out of 19 answers?
Because it's a very good question. Kids ask it all the time. 20 people answered this, but since they did, one person dropped off the grid. So somebody's phone may have gone to sleep, or somebody lost their Wi-Fi connection or something like that. Because that may happen where it's an improper fraction, and that's because of Wi-Fi issues. It's less likely to happen when everybody's in my class using our iPads on our school network. It's more reliable. But when they're using their own data plans and cell phone plans might not be as reliable as Wi-Fi. And I think, was that my last question on that one? Yes, it was. So now I go to finish. And I get options on what I want to do with that information. I will save you later because we don't need to see it now. But it will download it to a nice spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, or now they added Google Drive. Since I'm an anti-Microsoft kind of guy, I prefer looking at it as Google Sheets, and it saves it in my cloud drive automatically. So you have lots of options there. You can even choose what kind of results you want. Like, do you care based on per student to see it, like as if it was a test question and there's a page of paper for each child? Or do you more care about the questions? Like, show me how everybody answered on question 1 versus question 2. So however you want to get your information from, you got some options there to choose from. And you do have to hit view later and then submit. Okay, so that finishes that. So back to the outline here. Now that you've had a taste of it from a user point of view, if you want to dig in deeper, of course we don't have time to show you any of these here, but these are the past presentations I've delivered, just like this one. In fact, this one will be added as option E at the bottom there. I record these sessions that I teach, so I do change things up a little bit here and there, so if you're interested in more, you can check those out. My grad school students, anybody from my grad school classes in Canisius here today? I know some of them are coming today. I don't know what they look like because I teach online, so I don't get to see my graduate students face to face. But I have them look at this on the week that we talk about Socrative and Cahoot, and specifically formative assessment tools. And they watch these as part of it, and then they use it in their classrooms as well. So the teacher sign-up procedure, I just have that linking right to the Socrative.com website, is just simply clicking the button on the page that says get your free account. So if you're going to do that, this is the information they're going to ask for, and very simple, as you can see, no further pages to go to after that. This is a service that does not double check accounts because I don't really think they need to. If a student lies and says they're a teacher, there's no danger in that. They're not going to have access to anybody else's teacher level accounts or anything like that. So it's a very straightforward tool to use and to sign up for. All right, my next thing, both teachers and students begin at Socrative.com. This is more for those that may have used this tool in the past. On Socrative 1.0, there was different entry points depending on which role you had. Now I simplified it by having you go to the same site, so just a reminder for that. So 2 different presentation modes when you're using Socrative. One is on the fly, and one is prepared quiz mode. What you saw me do moments ago was the second one, the prepared quiz mode, where the advantage was I was able to put multiple questions in a row, so sequence that out as an event. Things automatically would have been graded if they were right or wrong answers, and results were recorded for me. The disadvantage, though, is just it must be prepared in advance. So you can't decide at the end of first period that, hey, beginning of second period, I want to do this, because you obviously need some time to make it. So the opposite of that is the on-the-fly mode, where no prep is needed, but these are going to be only single questions, one at a time, and it's not going to grade anything. So if you need that data to see what percentage of students said this versus that, you wouldn't have that. But this is kind of like a short example. What I want to do here is a quick spur-of-the-moment thing. I might be thinking in the middle of the class, hey, it'd be good to end class today to ask them about the favorite app that they looked at today. So I'm going to do a Socrative event. I'll think about that on the spur of the moment. So this is what I do. I log into it, and I go to Quick Question. And on your screens, if you're still logged in, it should be asking you right now, oh, not yet, I have to pick one. I have to pick which kind. Let's do no, I don't want that. I wanted a short answer. All right, I don't even have to put in the question itself at all because I'm going to verbally say what the question is out loud. I'm going to let you guys vote just once per device, and I really don't need names, so I'm going to leave it anonymous. So I'll hit start, and quick question is in progress. All right, so on your screen you should be able to type something in. The question to you is, tell me your favorite app or service or website. Favorite app or service or website. And put it as just, don't give me a list, give me just your top one. There's a reason for that. I want you to give me just one. So let's see if do I have to, no, not yet. It should be going in. All right, and the responses are starting to come in now. This is really a two-parter here. We're doing the first part now. We're brainstorming, if you will, as a class. We're brainstorming our favorite apps. And I've done this for, what question should be on the quiz on Friday? Or what was the most difficult thing about today's activity? The possibilities are endless. It's a quick question. You ask them for information. So it's a way to make sure every child in the room is being heard, not just the ones that are bold enough to raise their hand and say something out loud, but every child's digital voice, if you will, is being captured. And so once we get everybody in there, it looks like I have 17 in the room. We're just about there. What I'm going to do now then is the part 2. Well, I'll wait another moment just so everybody gets in.
It's great that it's anonymous, so they have no fear of
That's right.
being identified if they're wrong.
So nobody in the room is intimidated, because if someone put in there, I don't know, I could make something up here like doodle jump, and someone might say, oh, that sounds like a baby thing. We're not in kindergarten. You get around all that because then nobody knows who said what. And so now that we have a nice list, I want to rank this list. So this is the part 2 of this event. I'm going to hit one button, start vote, confirm it, and now you should be seeing on your screen all the choices that were submitted. Pick the one you think is the best. And I should say this, don't pick your own. So besides your own submission up there, pick one that you think is the best for, let's say, usefulness app or service. And by doing that, it's going to surface to the top the one that would be deemed by this class the most important. So I call this crowdsourcing. We're crowdsourcing the information right now. This could be who would be a good candidate for prom king and queen. And then after they all submit it, then we vote on it. And it could be done in a large event like that, where maybe in an auditorium where there's hundreds of kids all doing this. And speaking of auditorium events, we have used tools like Socrative years ago, but more recently this year, Cahoot, in our annual geography bee in January. And we have the audience pull their devices out, and now they're participants in the event going on. So they're not just passive audience members watching, the 10 kids up on stage, but they're every once in a while they get to pull their device out and they get to answer some of the quiz questions too. And that went over really well.
Socrative, which one?
We've used both, but this year we used Cahoot, and I actually like it better. So I think we'll probably stick with that one from the future. So as you can see, surfacing to the top is roughly a tie for first place between Google Classroom and Cahoot. A lot of fans of that. Oh, but if we take into account, right, because we have multiple Kahoots, so we'd have to add 21% and 14% and 14%. Yep, we'd have to add that. So obviously Cahoot would be the one that would technically be on top. That's a good point to mention out there. See if the kids catch that, because they might all say, oh yeah, Google Classroom, that's the first one. Well, not really, because if you look at those there. And there was no way when we brainstormed to make sure that only one person in the room put in Cahoot. So you have to think about that too when you're getting your criteria described for doing this one. So that is my example for the quick question style. I'll hit finish, and it takes us back to the main screen. And so that's on the fly. Now let's do some other ones that are the more prepared and advanced one. My digital citizenship, this is content that I teach as a 7th and 8th grade tech ed teacher. I have also a math example, a science example, so for the different curricular areas, we'll see that in a moment. Notice I put in my Socrative numbers here. That's in case you want to steal my quiz if you like it and you want to modify it for your own, because I believe I did it for this one. This one I did not come up with originally here. That was somebody else's digital citizenship quiz that I searched for in Socrative. I liked it, but there are some questions I didn't want. So it was quicker for me to just take somebody's existing project and just tweak a few of the questions rather than me start from scratch and type in all questions on my own. So save time whenever you can by using those Socrative numbers. So this is where we find it. And by the way, I'm doing this on my laptop. I could be walking around the room right now with my mobile device, my iPad or my iPhone, and doing the same thing. That's why these buttons are very big, so that on a screen like this, you could be launching things quite easily and walking around the room. In fact, I might not even have a projector going in class. That's, take that out of the equation altogether. People are just looking on their own device for information rather than looking up on the screen. Some teachers will do that if they don't have a projector like this, or if they don't want to reveal the information to the class as a whole. So you have that option.
Rob,
Yes.
is there a way to forward the results page to the devices that the students have? So like to have the whole results pop up on my phone?
No, that you do not have any control over.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go to start a quiz that I've made, and I'm going with the digital citizenship for March. But this time around, let me check how I'm doing it here. I guess I can do this one student paced. So I'm going to have you guys work on your own on this without me leading you through it. I'm going to give you, now there's two choices here. Immediate feedback means after each one you will get the answers if you got it right or wrong. You'll get the feedback. But if I do student navigation, you're not going to know if you're right or wrong until you reach the end. That might be a safer bet if there's worry about kids looking at each other's screens. So since it's not a concern in here, I'll go with this one. So you do get, I like getting immediate feedback right after you answer it to know if it's right or wrong. Because then you can kind of burn into your memory like, okay, I thought that, but it's not that. And that sticks with you right then and there. So let's look at the other options. Disable student names. Nope, I want to get your names. Randomize question order. I'll say sure, because then when you're sitting next to each other, question 1 and question 1 is not going to be the same question. Randomize answer order. So A, B, C, D will be mixed up within each there, so I'll do that too. And then I do want to give you feedback, so I'm not going to disable that. So I'll leave it just like that, and we'll go to start. And now it should be presenting to you to put in your names first, I believe. It's going to say put in your names. Once your names are in, you're going to be able to make progress at your very own pace. And by watching my big screen, I can see how everyone's doing live in real time. So I might not have that on during the class because then it's kind of giving the answer key out right there. But I think that's kind of cool because I can watch and see where everybody's progressing. And great job, Sean, out there with the 100%. Same thing with Catherine. I'm seeing a bunch of hundreds come in. Very good. And so by monitoring the screen that I'm looking at here, I can tell when everybody's done taking it. So I know not to end it too early. Now there's a lot of data on this screen, so we'll kind of go through it piece by piece. The obvious piece is the rows. So by looking across in the rows, so looks like whoever is Chris in the room, and see, I didn't have you put in last names. So you might, with common names like Chris, you might ask them to put in last names. I could tell how Chris has answered across, got them all right. So the score is right there. But if I want to go by questions, I can look at the bottom. I can see question 1 was 71%. Looks like the last one was a pretty difficult one. Only half the class got the 4th question right. Everybody got the 2nd one right. So maybe that was either an easy question, or maybe I really taught that information well. Whatever you want to pull, extract from that, you can see that by questions at the bottom. And then going across the rows, you can see how everyone did. Now, I don't want to embarrass anybody. Let's see who got the most amount wrong. Anybody get all 4 wrong? No, it looks like a lot of hundreds in this group here. But why is it that?
Is it 100? When
Yeah, if there's something that's marked as wrong.
Does that just mean they finished like it's 100%?
Maybe that's what that means, yeah. That must be their progress along the way. I bet you that's what that is. So the percent that they are finished with taking the test. All right.
Yeah.
So if I boil down,
It's just progress.
does it say progress?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because they've changed that interface numerous times to try to give you a lot more data without overwhelming you. But what I just did there, let me go back. I clicked on the numbers up top. So if I want to look at that, it looks like the most difficult one we had was the last one. I can click on that, brings me to it. And from here, I can see how did we do. I can see how everybody answered here. And so the right answer for this was what here? It was A. Yes. So that because that's green there, that's how we know that's the correct answer. So we can click to go back. So you can do an item analysis on each by clicking on the numbers up top there. So we're done with that. We can say finish. I'll view the results later. If I did show you the results, what it would simply do is download to a spreadsheet, and it would look the same as what we saw moments ago. So that's just an offline way to look at it as compared to the online version of it. All right, so that was our digital citizenship. Our next one is, I reversed them. So this one we'll do a teacher paced example for the math quiz. How many math teachers in the room? All right, looks like about a third or so. So here we go for that. This is start a quiz. We'll go to my math quiz. This time I'm going to make a teacher paste so I can kind of narrate or see how we do it as we go. I want the names. We're not going to randomize. And we'll give you the feedback. All right, so it probably is asking you for your name. It usually does that the first time through. So once you got your name in there, you will be presented with the first question. And I like this one because it's an image one. Without that image, it'd be I think it'd be almost impossible to explain that. So you're seeing the image. This is probably a skill you've covered in class, so now you're asking them to identify the angles when they go together. Or this could be done to see what they know before you even start teaching the lesson too, kind of like an opening event. And so we have 14 out of 15. I think that's good enough. We'll go for it. And majority have that correct. Now, I revealed this, and the one person that didn't answer yet might go, oh, I know the answer now, and then they put it in. So that could happen at the end. Just be aware of that if you reveal the results before everyone has been in. So very good on that one. Majority have it right. Next, we go to a square root question. And this is another one of those where you can put in either the numerical number or you can spell out the number. Either way, I've set it up so that you have the option there.
Bob, is it sometimes that screens are hard to because sometimes I have trouble getting on screen. Kids face that issue sometimes.
Yeah, are you using Safari?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Just good to know.
Well, Safari is usually the one that works well. The other ones, well, I don't know. If you see the same problem happening, switch to. I have Chrome on my phone, so I'll use either Chrome or Safari.
Yeah, I'm thinking that.
You might flip-flop to the opposite one.
Okay, thank you.
And if we, let's see, we got the names showing up. Let's show the answers. And it looks like everybody typed in the number. Anybody spell it? I was hoping somebody was going to spell the word 7. That would show that it's right either way. All right, and then we have our results there. So let's go to the next one. We're looking at 2 angles side by side. There's your question. So that number, this number, by the way, up in the upper left-hand corner, shows you at all times how many people are in the room. And then it shows you down here how many are on that question. So there's 16 on that question now, but there are 17 in the room.
Does that include you?
That does not include me, no. That only includes those logged in as students, I believe.
So Rob, the information that comes up after to us, we also type that in, like that's what I want you to know.
Right.
When you answer it. So
When I made this quiz, I typed that in as the feedback. Yep. All right, and here's our big reveal, and it's unanimous. In a room like this, it looks like everybody's going to get pretty much everything right. But as you can imagine, in a room full of middle school students that I teach, we have a wide variety of answers there. So next up, you're seeing a multiple choice question. Which one is the improper fraction? And here's our results. Very good. Everyone in the room has that correct. Our 10 over 2. And I think that was my final question there, right? Let's see. Finish. View it later. All right. So there's an example of a teacher-led versus a student-led. And now I think I show you how we made... Oh, no. It's a couple of the fun ones here. The space race example. We're going to do the space race. This will be our science connection. Any science teachers in the room? Specifically, chemistry teachers. Okay, because this is going to be about the periodic table. So it may have been a while for it. Yeah. All right, how was I going to run this one? I'm going to do, as a space race. Okay. So as a space race, down on the bottom left-hand side is space race. You then choose, this even looks different from last time I did it. So select a saved quiz. The one I want is my periodic table. Number of teams. Now, teams are going to be people that you're working with, but you don't really know that you're working with them necessarily. In this room, I'm going to have 3 of you be clustered, groups of 3. All right, I'm going to let that go randomly, so you're not going to even know who's on your team. I'm going to say it's auto-assigned. So let's say you're on the blue team, and then the blue team, and the blue team. The 3 of you together, your contributions are going to be what propels you forward. That gives you your little spaceship along the timeline. So it's in this case, it's going to be a mix of the draw. You know, I like to do it that way more so than telling the kids which teams they should be on. So I leave that to be auto-assigned instead of student-assigned. And then I'm not going to disable feedback. All right, so here we go. Start activity. And I believe you're going to be asked, as always, to put in your name first. Because I will have access to these results. So if I needed to see these results afterwards or put a grade in the gradebook from it, I'd be able to do that. So after your name is in, you're going to be presented with your multiple choice questions about the periodic table. If you get it right, your little spaceship flies forwards. And right now we have an even tie. Oh, blue's really leading ahead there. Maybe our chemistry teacher's in the blue. Are you in the blue team? Is that why?
How do you know what team?
Oh, you should know what team you're on. See it? It's on your screen, I think at the top.
In the corner.
In the corner. So which team is our chemistry teacher on?
I'm on green.
He's on green, okay.
Got it right though.
All right, so blue was the winners at first place, and it's still not done yet. Still not done yet, I think, because we have, unless we've exhausted all our questions, then we are done. Okay, then we're at the end. So blue is our leader there. Oh, no, we did. Lime is second place, and magenta's in third place. So now those that are on the blue team get to come up and they get a piece of candy or something like that. If this is class and if I had candy. Yeah, don't get up actually because I don't have candy. But that's what I do. I have a Skittles machine, so I'd give them quarters to go to the Skittles machine. From this view I can't, but if I go like this now, if I go to finish, and I want to, let me think here. I think I want to do view chart to show it to me. Does it show me which is which? Yeah, I saw that there, yeah. You know what it is? I think it's get report, but you got to do a download. And I don't have Excel installed on this because I'm using a Mac and it doesn't work that well. But if I were, yeah, see, I can't really do it now. But if I was on a Windows machine at school, I'd download it as an Excel spreadsheet, and I'd open it up, and it would show these names, and it would show what team color they were on. So you can look at it after the fact. It just doesn't show you live. And so that was the space race. As you can imagine, it's a little gimmicky, but it's a way to gamify it a little bit. And if you like the gamify concept, wait till you see what I'm about to show you next. Kahoot is all about gamifying. In fact, this tends to be kind of bland and boring after you've seen both. But this Socrative is the one that's been out for many years that more people are familiar with. Kahoot is an evolution off of a tool like this. So I think the last thing I wanted to show you is how to make one of these quizzes. So you go to Manage Quizzes, create a quiz. You give it a name, so I'll call it Period 6 Quiz. And the shared number is already there right from the start, so you can give that out, email it to your colleagues or whoever you want to do. If you want to tag it, you can. That makes it easier for other people to find it, and they do have Common Core tags in there. So if you're searching by Common Core standard, you can find an entire, I don't think it's just the question, but it's the entire quiz based on how it's tagged. Your 3 types of questions, multiple choice will come up. Put in your question there. You do have some formatting options, which is nice, especially for math people that want to use the superscript stuff. And your choices can be as little as 2 and as many as, I think, maybe 8, because you can add and delete choices there. So every time you do delete and add, you can add them and delete them. And if there is a correct answer, you check which one it is. If there's multiple correct answers, which could be the case, you could check multiple boxes like that. If it's meant to be an opinion-based question where there's no right or wrong answer, you just simply leave it empty. Explanation is optional. That's where you would put something like tungsten is found in light bulbs, or whatever you want to reinforce the fact would go in there. Adding an image would go there. It asks you to choose from your hard drive where you have that image. And what I usually do for images is I'll just go to Google and I'll say, let's say I need an apple. I'll just search the word apple as a Google image search. And I'll say that one's good. So I'll view that image. And then I'll right-click, Save Image As. And it saves it as a file, apples 2. Save it to my desktop just so I know where it is. And then I go to Add Image, throw it in there. And it does reformat it nicely so that it fits on just about any size screen. Because sometimes you're doing this on a desktop where you got a lot of real estate space. Sometimes it's a really small thumbnail image. So you can put those images in just like so. True false is, as you can imagine, just real simple true false. And same thing, explanations, image, you can add those in. And the short answer is the one where you get to put in the optional correct answers. So earlier when I said about Pennsylvania or PA, I put those in here and you separate them by commas. So you put something in, comma, put another thing in, comma, and you can have in as many correct answers so that it automatically does score. If you leave that empty, you will not be able to get this to grade itself. You'll have to manually go in and see what kids did. And I'm a fan of having the tool grade itself, so I try to do stuff like, what's the square root of 49? I know if they put in the number 7 or SEVEN, either one would be correct that way, and that way it automatically grades itself. So that's kind of a higher level one if you go with the short answer style. And when you're all done, you hit save and exit, and then it will show up. And I didn't do it right, so I have to just abort out of it. And then it'll be found under the My Quizzes area, where the most recent ones will show up first, and then all the ones you've created will show up here in a list going backwards in time. When it comes to looking at results, let's take us back to the main dashboard here. You might want to look at something, say, from last week Thursday, and you didn't save it that day. Not a big deal. It's always saved for you. So you can go to Manage Quizzes and then Reports. And you can look at, really neat way to look at it. Show me just the quizzes. Show me just the space races, just the exit tickets or the short answers. So you really can filter that down by whatever you choose. And I've been using this for a while, so I really could go far back in time, probably to a couple of years, for all sorts of stuff. So because it's in the cloud, just like the concept of how Google Docs works, you never have to worry about saving your stuff to a certain location or saving it when you're in the middle of teaching a frantic lesson. It's always there after the fact, so you can grab it when you need it. And that is our look at our first tool of Socrative. So before I move on to a couple advanced features. Some of you might want to know about these. If you go to Menu and then you go to My Profile, this is the place where you put in your data about your email address, first name, last name, etc. But then you have, I thought this is where you do your room number.
It is. Move on.
Is it up there?
Yep, right there.
Oh yeah, there it is right there, your room name. So that's where if you want to put in a custom room name, you can do that as long as it's not been taken by any other Socrative user out there in the world. You can put custom names in for that. Another advanced level thing would be clearing the room. Let's say first period is ending, but when second period comes in, they're all going to be using the same exact devices that you guys were using. I don't want the new group to be answering as if they were logged in as the old group. So all I have to do is click clear room, and essentially that boots all of you out. So if your screens were on right now, you would see it takes you back to the login page. So with one button click, you have the ability to kick everybody out of the room, and then it should jump back down to 0. It might not right away if your device is sleeping, because the device has to be on to receive that signal. But upon someone trying to wake up the device next time, it'll still be back at the login screen. So there was the room name. What else did I have there? Room name, clearing the room, and sharing quizzes. We talked about that with these SOC codes. If you're given a code, the way that you use it is you go to, take you back here to the dashboard, you go to Manage Quizzes, and right there is the button to import a quiz. And it says enter the SOC number of somebody else's quiz right there. And you hit import and it pulls it right in as it stands. You could also play around with Excel spreadsheets. They have a template that you can download here. It's kind of nice. It's all very nicely laid out, where then you can type in your questions and answers kind of in an offline mode. That maybe would be advantageous if, let's say, you had to go do study hall duty and you did not have Wi-Fi on your device, so you could be working on a local file in a spreadsheet. And then you would upload that file right here, when you would choose file to upload it back to their service. I really have never used that too much, but I understand why it's there. But as long as you have a good internet connection, you might as well just enter your questions when you're online, because then it saves as you go. No chance of losing stuff that way. So that's all my advanced pieces I wanted to cover on that. And now we move to Kahoot. So before we do that, are there any questions on what you've seen with Socrative? Any ideas or anything that has come up?
I have one question.
Yes.
If you have anonymous responses,
Mhm.
is there any way if someone types something inappropriate to see who it is?
On Socrative, I don't think you can go with anonymous completely.
Because I saw
I did say disable
it said
student names.
anonymous, and like each kid had a different number attached.
Yeah,
to
you know what, you
anonymous.
can. They changed
But
it
I
now so
didn't-
you can.
can.
So you could have, well, I'd have it set up for anonymous. You go in, but then there'd be no way to trace it back because it does not show an IP address or any identifying information about the phone. So that would be running a risk. If you choose to disable student names, you have to know that there's no way to trace back in case you have to do that. And I've never done it that way. I always make sure that they are required to put in their names. But remember, they could put in somebody else's name. Just like if they had a piece of paper, they could write their friend's name on their piece of paper too. So what could exist in the paper-based world could also exist in the digital world too. Did I see a question somewhere over there? No, we're good? Okay. All right, so we're moving on now to Kahoot. And was anybody in this room last session 1? Okay, I mentioned the presenter that was here. She talked a little bit about Kahoot, and she had us take a game there. I talked about some of the ways that I've been using it in my school, so I made suggestions for people to stay, so I'm glad a couple people did that. The site that you go to for this is getkahoot.com, and I think the reason why it was kahoot.com was taken already. Somebody had it, so it's getkahoot.com. And the main sign-in page looks like this. I'm going to be signing in because I already have an account, which is improper if there's any English teachers there. That's really not right. I already got an account, right? We have an account. Anyway, so you sign in there, but if you don't have one, you sign up right there with it. Similar to the last tool you saw with Socrative and signing up. And here now I have created 6 of them already. So my stored Kahoots, my game show events are here. The one I'm going to have you guys take first, we're going to take it first so you can see what this is, and then we'll show you how I put it together. I'm going to show you the end first, the finished product first, and then we'll talk about how we created it. So I do a Lego robotics unit with my 7th and 8th graders. They needed to know about Pythagorean theorem and about how to calculate angles, because in our hallway, which probably in your schools, most hallways have squares. We have 2 by 2 foot squares. So I gave them a grid, we called that the surface of Mars, and they had to make the robot go from one quadrant to the other and drive around. They could not use any measuring equipment, so they knew only 2 by 2 foot squares, but I made it go purposely everything diagonally, so you can't just say 2 foot here, 4 foot there, 6 foot there. You couldn't do that. We were going at diagonals. So they were forced to learn why a squared plus b squared is c squared, why that's so important, why Pythagorean theorem is not just something you learn in math class, but why you actually need it to find out answers. So we really did a lot of heavy study on triangles, and because I wanted to do a quick assessment and see if they understand it before we did competition days, I made this game show style event, and they loved taking it. And it did count as a grade in the grade book. So as they were going, they realized, yes, it was fun and all, but you better not be guessing just for fun. You better really try your best because it's going to count as a grade. So we will play it now. I think I made it. I lessened it down. This only has 14 questions. This is going to be way loud. So I better go low there. Let's see if we get our audio okay. All right, so we are going to go with display game pin. That I can leave on. Randomize. I'm not going to. Yeah, actually, I'm going to randomize. And I don't want the lobby music. You're going to see in 1 second. You'll see how to get in here. I'm not going to do any of the advanced options. Just the basic options. Okay, so the way this will work. We may or may not have audio here. I don't like what I was hearing there. All right, so you're going to go to Kahoot.it, Kahoot.it. That's the website in whatever browser you have, on whatever device you have. And on Kahoot.it, you're going to be asked for a game pin. Notice last time around you were asked for a room name. This time they are asking you for a game pin. And the game pin is the one I'm highlighting right up top there. And it looks like we have a bunch of people in.
Oh, we do.
So Kahoot.it, that is the website that you're going to. And let's just say, for example, that somebody in the room put in an inappropriate name. And I'm going to click on the one that says my name there, because I don't think somebody using my name out there. This is how we find out. You click on it, it goes away from the list.
Man, the screen turns red.
And there it is, yes. Thank you for doing that. It's like as if I prepared that in advance. So the screen turns red, so now the teacher looks around the room. Where's the red screen? Oh, it was you that did that. So that was a new feature added within the past 2 months, I believe, so that you could not only kick people out, but then find out who did that. So I think his screen's going to stay
Yes,
red.
Kahoots would not let me register.
Okay.
They sent a letter, an email to me that my name was inappropriate.
Oh,
My
really?
name is Hobbit,
Okay.
German for hawk. And then I tried to get in and I said, I emailed them, this is not inappropriate, this is my name, it's German for hawk.
Yeah.
They emailed me back and told me I should change my username. So then I got, first it was funny, and then at that point
Yeah.
I changed my name, I was mad.
And see, as
So
a
I didn't
teacher,
do anything for like 2 months, and then I got an email from them that they put my name in,
and see, that's
they're
a
pretty fussy about inappropriate names.
so for doing teacher accounts, you'll be asked for a username, but for the kids though, they won't be asked to create an account. We should clarify that because she had to deal with that because she was registering as a teacher to make these things. But if you're only registering like right now not registering, if you're entering as a player, you don't have to worry about creating accounts. So as long as you go to that website and put in that, then you have it. Now we can see here we obviously have 18 people in the room, 19 people now, and this will take as many as you can fit. And when we did this for our Geography B event in January, we had an auditorium full of about 500 kids, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And we invited them to bring in their mobile devices. Since our school and I'm going to say this mistakenly yet, and I should be careful because my admins might be watching this video later. They don't provide Wi-Fi yet to students, which I think is wrong and is let's call it educational malpractice in 2015.
Very careful. You were very careful.
That's right. Yeah, I'm very politically correct when I say that. They don't yet have it available for kids. So the kids that had been able to participate were the ones that happened to have a data plan on their phone. So their parents got them that. So there was a selection process, if you will. We couldn't involve everybody, even though a lot of kids had devices. A lot of them have iPod Touches still, too, which are Wi-Fi only. We were able to get most of them in. We had around 400 some kids playing all at once. And what was really cool is, I don't want to go on forever about this, but the kids had to vote, first of all, which teacher up here do you want to answer the next question? So there'd be like 5 teachers, and we used Kahoot. They would all vote, and the answers would fly in real fast. Just see the little thing spinning up in the corner as people are responding. So we get the teacher that wins. Then the next question was, what should they eat? And it was like frozen eel and like pig's tongue and this and that. Because the thing with the geography bee was they called it, what did they call it? It was a culinary event of like foods from around the world kind of thing, So it was like, kids were thinking it was all gross what people had to eat. So we used Kahoot as our way to get people to participate in that. So it worked out really well for that in a very large event. So this is a small event as compared to something like that we did with lots of people. So we're going to start now, and there may be sound to this too. You're going to see the question along the top. It's going to be here first, but then it's going to go to the top. And let's see if I get the audio. So you have around 30 seconds to answer. The question's up top here. What type of triangle? Yeah, the audio's always has unequal lengths on all sides. So you have to look on my screen to see the choices. Because on your screens, you just have it as an answer pad. So it's different. And I'll explain why. Bless you. And once we have all answered, or the time runs out, whichever happens first. Either the time's going to run out, or everybody in the room answered, whichever happens first. It ends it reveals the right answer, in this case a scalene. I can see 11 people, which is the majority in the room, got it right. And this helps me to decide in the moment, should I talk about a scalene triangle, or did they mostly get it and I can move on? So I would make that decision right on the fly. Now here's the really fun part about it. The next screen now shows you the top 5 scorers in the room. So these 5 people now answered not only the right answer, but they did it relatively quickly because it's a point value system. I'm giving 30 seconds for each question. So if you answer right away, you can get 1,000 points. But if you wait till the end and you still get it right, then it's only worth 500 points. So it's a diminishing point value as the time goes on. So it's not just figuring out who's right or wrong, but it's how are they right and how quickly do they know the information. And on your screens, you would have all seen information about where you currently rank in the class, and you know who's kind of behind you or ahead of you, something like that. And that's in a room full of people that know each other. That's a lot different than it is right now. Because you'll have, at the moment that they see this, I can't even say scalene triangle. I can't do that. Saying, oh, I'm 15 points behind you. I'm going to catch up to you. That erupts in a classroom full of middle school kids. So you have to be prepared for that.
Is there a way to turn that off?
No. That is a feature, I think a core feature of Kahoot that they want to have as a motivating factor. So it's done game show style.
Answers on your actual screen. You can only get it up there.
That's correct, and I'll explain why. At first I didn't like that fact, but now I kind of do. The theory is we shouldn't have kids engrossed in their own device where their face is down. We want them interacting with the world, meaning looking up. So this forces you all to be looking up towards here, where that's what's going on in the front of the class, and everybody's looking in the same way, rather than everybody the whole period, majority of the time, having their face down on their device. So it's kind of like a philosophy of the people at Kahoot. That's why they did that. But if you go on and see where people can submit, it's usually on the right-hand side here, you can submit feedback to the developers of Kahoot about what you'd like to see. By far, the #1 request is put the choices or even the questions on the screen so that, just like you saw in Socrative, so that it would be, I think it was that way, right? Yeah, you saw in Socrative, you saw the choices there. People that are used to Socrative first, that start using this tool, they say, hey, this is missing something. But if you understand their philosophy, they don't want your head down looking at your device the whole class period. The only time you look down is to answer. Other than that, your face is up and you're aware of what's going on in the room.
And ophthalmologists will tell you also it's important to look up, to look in the distance.
Very good.
The face is very nearsighted,
Yep.
and that's what our devices are doing.
So from a medical standpoint too, the eyes are constantly focusing between close, far, and that's better for us than constantly up close, right? I never thought about that. That's good. So there's a psychological reason and a medical reason, and But who knows, this is relatively new, and by the way, this is still, usually it says it up there, this is still in beta. So this is not fully baked yet. So if you're using this, you have to know that it might not work. Things might stop working, Wi-Fi issues might happen because it's not fully baked yet, but they have it out there for people to try it and give them feedback about what they'd like to see. And I'd be willing to predict the future and say there's going to be a paid version of this where you can use the free features, but if you want the ability to have answers show up, then you buy a subscription or pay a monthly fee or something like that. They call that the freemium model, where it's free, but there's a premium as well involved with it. And someone like me that uses it heavily, I'd probably be fine with paying $10 a year or $5 a month, or maybe not that much, but however they come out with it, if it's a tool that really gives you value for what you're doing.
I'll let them know.
And I tweet this out too to them, so everything we're saying right now they'll probably end up watching too. You just tweet it out at Kahoot, and then they see it that way too. I did go full screen too. I forgot to do that, so you get the full view of everything. It looks a little bit nicer. So now we move on to the next question. Here is the question. How are we doing?
So now we know.
That's right. And look how quickly those answers are coming in, very fast. As soon as everybody's in, it's going to stop. And this is when the kids say, hurry up, who still didn't answer yet? Hurry up. So we have unanimous. Everybody's got it right. And you can see now we have reshuffled around our top 5. So great job, Karen's at the top. And I watch this as we go. I might say, oh, welcome, Harvey. You made it to the top 5. Oh, it looks like Jason's no longer in our top 5. You got some work to do. Or, you give that little kind of motivation as you go along with it. So here's our next question. Fill in the blank. If we lose Wi-Fi, someone won't let them answer, so it'll time itself out. You get to choose, by the way, how long that goes for. I think a maximum of like 3 minutes and a minimum of 10 seconds. Or you could say no time at all, so that the teacher manually moves on to the next one. Because for some kids, that's a stressor, because that time is going down like that. So we have now just about unanimous on that. We got hypotenuse. And Karen's still at the top there. Here we go to our next one. That's right. Oh, and because I randomized these two, if you see another question later on with the same choices, they might not be in the same spot. So in other words, 90 degrees might not always be the green bottom right corner. It might be in a different spot. So that can throw people for a loop too. And so somebody's got to outseat that Karen in the top spot, but she's only 17 points ahead of Mike there. So we're catching up there.
Give her a shove.
And these images, you choose your images to put in. You don't have to put in images, but I purposefully choose them to fit the question. Oh yeah, and you can't change your answer either. And oh yeah, that's right. This one happened to have 2 possible right answers. Right. And I can re-show the image again. So 45 and 45 be either that one or that one. So either one answer is fine.
Yeah, well, that was tricky because I identified.
And now we welcome Mike to the top spot. Very good.
That's what I did.
Now something I should mention too. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, I like this. I did this activity. I teach A and B days. So when I did it the A day, then I came back to the B day. I'm like, why do the screens look different after they're answering? Overnight, they implemented a change that I liked. And it was the fact that after you answer, just a split second, you get to see confirmation of what you answered. Then notice it goes away. It goes away so that your fellow people next to you can't look on your screen and say, oh, he answered B, he answered D, and then they do it as well. Because that's how it used to be. kids will go around, they kind of look at everybody's screen and say, all right, it looks like they're mostly doing that, so I'll do that. So to eliminate that, they built that in automatic there. So I thought that was neat. And that just was a surprise thing just to show you when stuff's in beta, they don't even tell you that something new has been rolled out. It just changes overnight. So there we go. So Mike's in our top spot. Next question. I might have to end it early. I had 14 questions, but just give us that.
Yeah.
And look how quickly that one goes. That's right. So we're going to have a lot of high point values on that one, closer to 1,000.
Only 35, 34.
And there we are.
Karen, what happened?
All right, we'll go one more question.
I'm losing crown.
We'll make this our final question. Oh, this should be an easy one. See how quickly those come in? That's kind of neat when you see it. Yeah, and you can't change your answer either. So that's almost a feature request that people are asking for. And notice bottom left-hand corner always has the game pin there, because if someone walked in the room and wanted to join in, maybe a kid was, at the nurse's office and came in now, or if someone's Wi-Fi drops and I gotta say go get a different iPad or something, it's always there so they can join in. So I am going to.
Hey, I made it.
There you go. And I'm going to end the quiz early. And on the last screen, you now get the ability to give a temperature check to me. So you should see these questions up there. Go ahead and rate the level of fun. If it was learning or not learning, if you'd recommend it, not recommend it, and your feeling overall. So that's kind of like a temperature check for the teacher. Different way to see it, because maybe it was really difficult, but I would not have known it because everyone seemed to be not saying much. So that helps you get all your feedback that way.
I think Mike cheated.
And there's our final top 5. And notice all the options I have now. I can download the results as throw it right into my Google Drive. That's only about 3-4 weeks been there. So that's a new feature. You could download it as a Excel spreadsheet, which is probably the most common still. But I do like that ability to go send it directly to your Google Drive. And I don't know if I have this set up, so it may or may not work.
What format does it put it in?
Google Sheets. It'd be a spreadsheet format. And if you're doing Google Sheets. If you're doing the regular download, it's an Excel spreadsheet in XLS format. So can I view it there? Let's see if it opens. Yeah, and so you can see the overview of by person, and it is important to see correct and incorrect answers because not all these might add up to the same thing because maybe someone walked in late and they didn't get a chance to answer some of them. Or it wasn't their fault, but the Wi-Fi was down when a question came through. So I always tend to look at the number incorrect and I subtract that from 100 or from whatever the point value would be. And there's more pages so you can go through and look at all the results that way. So now let's look at how we put that together. Go to here, go to here. To create a Kahoot, you hit the purple K button in the corner. And quiz is the only one where you could have right or wrong answers. If you pick these here, they're more for open-ended opinion type things. So if you're going to have one that has right or wrong answers, you got to choose the quiz option. And I'll call it my period 8 quiz. And we'll say, what state are we in? And you could have as little as 2 questions, I believe, and as many as 4. So between 2 to 4 choices there. So we'll say a couple of state names here. And you could, if there was more than one right answer, notice each one is individually selectable. So you did that. Now, if I just leave it like this, it's going to put a generic Kahoot logo in the center of the screen. That's fine if you're just doing this quickly, but I kind of want a picture of New York State. So I might just go like this and say images, get a nice kind of map-looking thing. Let's say I go with this one. View that image, right-click, save image, saves it to the desktop. Move me out of the way there. So that's saved. Then I jump over here, say choose file, choose it from the desktop, and it formats it like so and puts it right in there. And so then I can say I'm good with that. I now go on to either add question if I'm going to add more, or if I'm all done, this could be a one-question Kahoot, I go to save and continue. So that would be the process if you were building a multiple-step type thing. And notice you can change the number of seconds too for each question. If you do it as a no points question, I haven't tried that. I guess it would not give any points and take away the competitive element in it, but I've kind of become a fan of using that there. And when you're done, you'll have some information to put in here. This is because it's meant to be by default a public quiz that anybody else could find. So another math teacher could have found my triangle quiz by searching the term triangle or hypotenuse or any of the keywords that were in the title or the question choices too. But if you don't like that, if you want it to be private where just only you are using it, you can change the default to be private and then select your audience, give it a description, and that's just a way to tag it all so it is findable again later. So that is how you put one together. And let's see, we played it, creation process, and that will take us to the last 5 minutes. So are there any questions on either of the things you saw today, Socrative or Kahoot? Question here.
You said that you were using Socrative mostly, and now you like Kahoot
I've
better.
switched
I'd
over
like
to
know
Kahoot.
What you like better?
The competitiveness in Kahoot really gets kids motivated because it's like a fun game show style thing to do. Whereas Socrative has more features and I probably could pull more data in different ways, but it's not as engaging.
Okay.
So I'm kind of on the fence, but if I had to pick one versus the other, I would pick Kahoot.
Do you use them both for different reasons, or have you strictly
Now that I found out about Kahoot, I've only been using that. I've kind of switched over. In fact, let me ask you guys that question now, because your preference between the two. Because I am scheduled to teach at ISTE this year in Philadelphia. I proposed it as, like 8 months ago, as a Socrative workshop. But I think a lot of people like Kahoot, so I'm kind of retitling it unofficially. So when people show up in the room, they're actually going to get both. So how many people would say they prefer Socrative, based on what they saw? All right, and how many would say they like Kahoot? All right, so that's about a 95% going for Kahoot. All right, very good. Thank you for that feedback. And are there any other questions or ideas or anything to share? How many of you allow BYOD, where students can bring in their own devices? All right, I'd say that's about 65%. And again, how many have Wi-Fi available for kids if they bring in their own devices that they own? All right, about 50%. Cool. All right, very good. Well, that's it for me. If there's any other questions, come on up here. I'm going to have this recording posted on my blog. And thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you. 1 hour, 12 minutes.